So we need to solve by completing the square. When we complete the square, we want the x terms on one side of the equation and the constant on the other. So we do have that. We also need a negative, just a plain one in front of x squared, and we have a negative 4 there. So let's divide both sides of the equation by negative 4 so that we can just have plain x squared. So we divide both sides of the equation by negative 4, so we have just a plain x squared. Then we have 3/2 times x, and negative 1/2 on the right. Now the completing the square step is filling in right here on the left to make a trinomial that factors into a binomial squared. So we're going to fill in a number on the left, and that means we have to fill the same number on the right. To figure out what that number is, we take the 3/2 x, and we take the 3/2 times a half and square it. So we always take 1/2 times the x coefficient squared. So that would be 3/4 squared, or 9/16. So 9/16 is the number that we want to add to both sides of the equation. So if we have x squared plus 3/2 x plus 9/16, and that means the left side of the equation will factor as a binomial squared. So we'll have x's, and then we have pluses, since we have all pluses above. 9/16 then is 3/4 times 3/4. It's always this number right here that you squared that gets filled into your binomials. So x plus 3/4 times x plus 3/4. On the right side, we have negative 1/2, so that's the same as negative 8/16. So negative 8/16 plus 9/16 on the right. So we have x plus 3/4 squared on the left. And on the right, we have 1/16. So the completing the square process is taking and adding this 9/16 to both sides of the equation. And that allows you to put the squaring up here instead of where it was originally right there. The reason we do that is because now we can go on and solve by taking the square root of both sides of the equation. So let's take the square root of both sides of the equation. Don't forget to put a plus or minus on the number side when you take the square root of both sides of the equation. That's so that you get all of the possible answers. So we have x plus 3/4 equals plus or minus negative 1/4. Well, x plus 3/4 is just plus or minus 1/4. And that gives us x is plus or minus 1/4 minus 3/4. So these are rational answers. They don't have a radical in them, so we can go ahead and see what are they. Okay, so first we'll look at x is equal to positive 1/4 minus 3/4. So that's negative 2/4, which is negative 1/2. So that's one answer. And then we have x is equal to negative 1/4 minus 3/4. So that's negative 4/4, which is negative 1. So two answers, negative 1/2 or negative 1. You can check your answers in your original problem if you like. So the step to memorize here is the number to add in to both sides of the equation, and it's always 1/2 times the x coefficient, 1/2 times the x coefficient squared. That's the number that gets added in on both sides here and here, and then you'll be able to factor the left side of the equation as a binomial squared.